Hi, Denise Gwen, reading aloud for you from my short story, A Good Christian Woman, Chapter 23, Part 1. Perspiration beaded Ben's forehead, and he blinked back tears of sweat as he white-knuckled it down the highway. His thoughts kept drifting back to the conversation with Mary Ann. The poor girl had been frightened out of her mind, terrified that she'd somehow given away her mammoth's terrible secret. And while he'd assured her and calmed her down, he'd started to wonder if perhaps he oughtn't to have told her something different. Leave the coffee shop right now. Leave the old bat at the cancer center. Call her and tell her you're sick. If you feel guilty about dumping her, I give you permission to call her an Uber. I'll give you the money to cover it when I get there. Just get the fuck out of there, Mary Ann, and for once in your life, don't be a good girl. He hit the outskirts of Parkersburg, only 30 minutes away from Swan Falls. His heart hammered in his chest. She's all alone down there. Why didn't I just tell my professor to wait till after spring break? Why didn't I go with her to the cancer center? Mary Ann needs me. He stomped on the gas. The car skyrocketed to 85 miles an hour. He didn't care if he attracted the police. Hell, he'd lead them to the old bitch's house. But nobody stopped him. He peeled into town at 10 minutes to 4, screeching onto Meridian on 2 wheels as he scraped the curb. He careened to a stop and threw the car into park. No sign of Mary Ann. He jumped out of the car and ran up to her grandmother's back door and knocked. "Mary Ann," he bellowed. "Mary Ann!" He tried the doorknob, unlocked, walked into the kitchen. No sign of Mary Ann. Fear trickled down his spine. He glanced at the kitchen table, saw a note. "Had to run an errand. Be right back. Mama." He stared at the note for a long moment, then walked into the family room and stood out the window. He stared at the note for a long moment, then walked into the family room and stared out the window to the house across the street. Where the fuck is Mary Ann? The old buzzard's house was aflame with light. Was that mean old bitch monopolizing his beloved's time? Mary Ann was just too fucking nice. She didn't know how to stand up to people, to tell them it was time for her to go. Well, I'll settle this. Hatred rose up in his heart. When other young women were off having fun on their spring break, shopping, clubbing, drinking, his beloved Mary Ann was carting some angry-ass old woman around to her freaking cancer treatments. For fuck's sake! He burst out through the front door, not bothering to close it, and ran across the street and was at McClintock's front door in seconds and pounding on it and yelling and screaming. "Mary Ann," he bellowed. "Mary Ann, open the door!" At last, a bulky form appeared in the wavy lines of the beveled window. He left off his pounding and hopped from one foot to the other, jittering, uneasy, angry. After an agonizing moment of fussing and fidgeting with the locks, she opened the door and pulled her lips back from her mouth, her teeth a grinning rictus of jagged and yellow points. An ugly old woman. "Where the fuck's Mary Ann?" She let out a small chuckle. "Oh, my. Where's Mary Ann?" "Oh, you must be Mary Ann's young man." "Yes, I am. Where's Mary Ann?" "It's my fault, I'm afraid. I got a sudden hankering for some butter pecan ice cream, and I gave her a 20 and asked her to run down to the gas station and buy me a couple of pints." She twinkled her eyes at him. "I also told her to get a milkshake for herself." The old woman spoke in a friendly, natural way, and it disarmed him. Still, something didn't sit right with him. In a subdued tone, he said, "She would have called or texted me. Where the hell is she?" "Come on in," Mrs. McClintock said. "She'll be home in just a minute." Ben hesitated a moment, then walked into the house and stood in what appeared to be an old lady's sitting room. He saw weary upholstery, threadbare carpeting, faded portraits. He didn't see any signs of trouble or a fight. Everything looks normal. Only, what am I thinking? Did he honestly believe that this massive, bloated old woman possessed the raw strength to subdue his girl? He let out his breath in a shuddering gasp. "Okay, calm down." She detained Marianne, that's all. He would have been way more suspicious if the old woman hadn't answered the door. And then to let him in and act so friendly, well, that did go a long way, didn't it? Toward reassuring him? For sure, it did.